Hey folks, this is Gene from Regular Guy Mountain Biking. Thanks for tuning in to another edition of our Bike Chat / podcast. Today I've got my good buddy Mike on the line from MTB Film School, and we're going to go through some things that a regular guy should know about if they want to, record some video when they're out on the trail, or maybe with their family, or maybe even take this one step further and do some content creation. So stay tuned. This should be a really good edition. All right, folks. Hey, once again, thanks for tuning in to the Regular Guy Mountain Biking Bike Chat / podcast. This will be hosted on YouTube, as well as the audio extracted out and put on a podcast on Mountain Bike Radio. So there's multiple ways to get to this content. And this content this morning is going to be all about video, which is kind of odd since I'll have it as a podcast and you'll only have audio. So I didn't think about that. But we're going to have my buddy Mike on the line from MTB Film School. Mike, how you doing, my buddy?
I'm doing great, Gene. Thanks for having me on.
Oh, no problem. Folks, just so you know, if Mike and I look like zombies, the only way we were able to get this done with our schedules is do this crazy early in the morning. So I don't know, Mike, if you have yours close, but I have mine. I've got my coffee here. Yeah,
ready to go
to keep the thing going. So lots of coffee, lots of good content. Again, my friends, this is going to be all about taking video at the regular guy level, right? We're going to talk about maybe some different items you can use to record video at the regular guy level. I guess what I'm trying to do is bring in folks like Mike that can help you better understand that you don't have to have fancy cameras and all kinds of crazy stuff unless you want to have some fun with your hobbies. So before we do that, let's introduce Mike. Mike, tell us about your YouTube channel, what you're doing, and then let's have some fun about this topic. So I'm gonna hand the mic over to Mike.
All right, this is Mike. I started a YouTube channel a little bit over a year ago, and I've gone through all the trials and tribulations so far, and I decided that, it'd be easier to collaborate all this into one place so people can hopefully not make the mistakes I made. So I definitely did it all wrong at first. I bought the wrong camera, the wrong mounts, ruined a lot of footage, got really bad audio. So in that process, I decided that, everybody else is out there trying to do it now. It's a really big community. There's a lot of people out there making mountain bike content, and here to be a good way to just help them out.
No, it's cool because I could very much agree with you. I've got a box of stuff that I thought was a good idea at the time. We've all been at fault of doing the Amazon click, oh my gosh, look at my cart, I'll buy it anyway kind of thing. Right. And you get all these things and it's like, I'm never going to use that ever. It looks cool. But so
yep.
Let's do this, Mike. This is certainly a topic that we could go on and on and on forever about. And, though it would be fun, let's do the I am a average Joe. I'm the regular guy. I might be out with my kids or just out by myself, or I just feel like, I don't want to lose these memories. I like this. And what can I do and what can I use just to go do some basic recording, man?
Yeah, for sure. So honestly, for most people to get started, everybody's phone is an awesome camera these days. If you're going out, you can do so much with the camera, even if you don't have the newest, hottest iPhone bazillion, Samsung S1000. The cameras are very good. But when you're talking about action footage, it's really hard to mount it, right? And they don't get good battery life. Like my phone, which is fairly new, will only take 10 minutes of video until you have to stop and start re-recording. So that's where action cameras come in. And there's a whole bunch of form factors, but the traditional one, everybody knows, the GoPro. Two different form factors, a little cube and a little rectangle, and a bunch of different options. So GoPro just released their new version of the Hero, which is kind of tough because they don't always change the name of the model number. And there was an older Hero, right, which was also a 1080p camera. The new one's still 1080p, but
which I love,
so basically, if you're
love. Sorry about that, but I just want to put the plug in there because I love it. I'm sorry. Didn't mean to interrupt, but I love that camera. Go ahead.
Oh, the original camera, yeah. Yeah, well, it was simple, right? So if you're looking for, look for the one with the gray case
Yeah.
and the square lens. That's the newer one. Just if you're comparing the difference. The older ones had a round lens. And that camera is retailing for $200. It going to have a 1080p with 60 frames per second, which helps you slow down footage a little bit, and waterproof, all the features. That's going to be a great buy for somebody who just wants to walk around, snap some, because it does all these cameras also do photos as well.
Yeah.
Which a lot of people don't actually remember to use them for. They take pretty good photos.
I forget about that a lot. A lot of times I realize, wait a minute, this is actually a camera too, and you can use these GoPros, these action cameras, specifically the GoPro, like as a camera, and it works pretty freaking good.
Yeah. And it's convenient. Even sometimes I'll take my GoPro if I'm not filming a mountain bike ride and leave it in my pocket just to get that quick third-person shot, because you can set them in a mode where you just hit the record button and it starts recording in 5 seconds, as opposed to taking out your camera, unlocking it, loading the camera. By then, sometimes you miss the shot.
Right. So before we go too far into the GoPros, let's finish that category on phones, because there's a couple things you brought up that I think are very important. First of all, the quality of a phone, you're right, is way better than they've ever been before. It's insane. But there are some downsides. One, you brought up a really important one, the battery life, right? I mean, so why would someone take their phone and use it, but then why would they want to go to the next level to action camera? Let's categorize that phone and the pros and cons about just that category first.
Sure. The phone is going to be really good for a third-person view shot. Agreed. Something when you're outside filming somebody else. Maybe if you're cruising down a fire road or something as a transitional shot, you can pick up your phone and take a quick clip of, say, oh, here I'm heading to the trail. Right. But you're not going to be able to use it when you're actually in motion. You don't want to risk it, right?
True.
Most people's phones cost a lot more than the action cameras, and if you're the type of person who rides in a lot of backcountry and you're away, your phone might be your lifeline to the outside world.
It's a good point.
So you don't want to kill your phone, and you don't want to smash your screen.
Yeah, I mean,
I had my phone with me one ride, and it was in the case, the saddlebag, and the saddlebag zipper broke, and the thing flew out the back, and I smashed it that way. So
I'll tell you one thing, dude. I rely on this thing way more for trail advice than ever before. So it's a very good point. You're not just going to strap that thing. You can strap the thing to your chest. I think you have an idea on how we can do that. But you're not just going to turn your camera on and record it for multiple hours. I don't even know if they would have the storage without additional SD cards to hold all that. It's just not designed for I'm going to do an epic ride. But you have something you put together to kind of make it kind of work.
Yeah, so you see visually here, anywhere you can get these little spring-loaded clips to mount a cell phone to a tripod. So I mounted it to the chest mount. I'm going to test this, but what I'm going to do is I'm going to use a bunch of Gorilla Tape, so people don't have the visual. It's just the spring-loaded clip threaded onto a GoPro mount on the chest mount. Then I'm going to stick the phone in it. Funnel like this, but then I'm going to run strapping tape around the whole thing. So even if it comes loose, it'll have something to not fall out and smash the screen on.
And for folks, you know what? For some folks, it's not that bad.
No, it will definitely work. If you just have a short trail, you want to say my trail's like a 3-minute quick little run, you could mount this up. And if you have an iPhone, there is one company that does make a case that actually an iPhone, I think they made it up to an iPhone 6 or 7.
Okay.
Has a GoPro mount on it, right? So it's a specific case for an action cam.
Right.
But the problem is, you think about it, your phone can't take video with the screen off. So the whole time you're running video, the screen is also running. So you want to be able to not have to have touch interactions with it. There's a few things that just make it difficult.
Right.
But in a pinch, if you're just trying to get a quick clip of things, you can use it. You can put it together as something. It's just really not.
And even the whole case idea, I don't want my primary case to be a phone with a GoPro. I mean, it's a good idea for some stuff, folks. And if you just want to take some shots, great for things like Instagram. Quick shot, you already got the phone there, send it up. Because remember, if you use other devices, you still have to get the video from that device and then post it. Instagram, things like that, Facebook, quick, send it up, awesome. But right?
Yeah, so honestly, for that purpose, besides the third-person stuff, the right now I'm familiar with the GoPro family. more than if the Yees and the SGAs have this, but the GoPro app has come a long way in that function. So especially with their newer cameras, you can launch the app, you can see your footage, and you can pull a quick clip.
Nice.
And then download that clip to your phone over the Wi-Fi connection. So you don't have to swap a card or plug anything into it. I do that almost every time I ride. I scroll through quick, find a clip, grab like a 15, 30-second clip. You can download it to your phone and then upload it to Instagram. They've definitely made a lot of strides, because I know a lot of your stuff is back with the Hero 4 family, which we'll talk about, because the Hero 4 has a bunch of advantages over the newer stuff for when you get more serious with it. But GoPro did a good job with their newer app and that sharing functionality. There's even one mode called a quick story, which it'll go through your footage and make a story on its own. It'll just pick out stuff it thinks, and
that's cool.
I don't know what kind of gnomes are in there, like looking through your footage, taking notes, but it does a decent job. So it's worth checking out.
Well, and so the deal, folks, is that, and we're going to probably move into action cameras now, but the fact is the phone certainly has a purpose. I'll tell you right now, there's some really good content creators out there like Alex, and we could just say Alex, single track sampler, Alex, because he's just not like Madonna. Alex, we know who he is. Or Jordan Byron, he makes some really classy videos, and almost all of their third-party shots, like when someone's riding by, they take out their phones. When Alex does his closing statements or does his vlogs or talks to people, they're all on their phones. So the phone is a very valid video tool to have with you. And the reason why I bring that up is now that we go into action cameras, look, you can, okay, Gene, you're such a jerk. Yeah, I've got a box of these things. Okay, fine, whatever. You can, Gene, you're such a jerk. But forget about that. What I'm trying to say is now that we go into action cameras, realize that if you purchased an action camera, you technically now have a 2-camera shoot. Your phone really isn't that bad. So let's talk about some of these action cameras, because that's really where people would go to next. You don't have to have a YouTube channel or be anybody crazy to just want to go one step further, and I think that's where we're going.
Yeah, the action camera has a lot of advantages. The durability is probably the thing people may not think about the most, but I mean, I've chucked GoPros down cliffs and on rocks, and
you're right.
As long as you throw a lens cover on it, there's not that much to break, unless it physically gets you run over. So all the new ones are waterproof as well, which has brought on some issues with the audio. Unfortunately, if you think about what it takes to waterproof a microphone, they had to compensate the audio with it a little bit. But so action camera, the mounts, I think, is what made GoPro what it is today.
I agree. They
came out with a good mounting system, and then everybody figured out, oh, we can just make these little plastic things that attach to everywhere.
You're right. That's huge. And if you notice, almost all the other cameras out there are using that same universal mount. That the GoPro style mount is the mount. That's just what people have subscribed to right now, which is good, because that's what we've invested a lot of money in those.
Yeah, that and the tripod mount is stuff you'll find with other cameras, but everybody has an adapter for tripod to GoPro or GoPro to tripod.
You're right.
So between those two, you have everything filming that's covered. And I don't know what year GoPro released a chest mount, but when they decided to do this for mountain biking, it made all the difference in the world.
You're right.
Because now this perspective, because I remember when I first started looking at a lot of videos, nobody was doing chest mount. So it was all helmet mount. Or bar mount.
You're right.
Actually, my first videos were bar mount. I had one of those action cameras that was like a cylinder tube, and it clamped onto the camera. And all you see in the video is woo, woo, woo. And I think the hospital called me one time. They're like, can you give us some footage? We're trying to, induce an epileptic seizure on somebody. And,
and your video would be great for that. It's shaking so much. Yes.
Actually, my buddy Mike actually was the first one. He had bought that camera. He was like, oh, let's record our videos. And after we watched it, we were like, yeah, we don't want to watch this.
And so, that brings up a good tip. A good tip, something that we should, remember, folks, is that a single perspective of any video. If you do want to get in any video editing, you know, we're not going to turn this into a Mike has a whole channel that he's going to be putting together that already exists. I mean, that has tips on this, and the MTB Film School is going to be really the go-to place to learn a lot of this stuff. There'll be links in the description at the end of this video as well, and also in the podcast description to his channel. But single perspective video, it's just boring. You need to get different angles, and certainly one perspective that's shaking violently is not entertaining at all.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, that's actually one of the pro tips we can start off with is make sure the videos you record are something you want to watch.
You're right.
Know? If you're looking at it and you're like, oh, this isn't that interesting, probably everybody else is definitely not interested.
Yeah, they have less involved in it. They weren't even there. At least when you're watching it, you can reenact and say, wow, that was fun. And if you're still bored, no one's going to, I mean, think about, you know, you're going to be sitting there playing, forget about YouTube or subs or views, or just think about putting this thing on your TV with your family. And they're like basically sitting there going, God damn, we're trying to be nice, but this thing is boring the hell out of me. So you got to keep it lively, you know, and that's a very good point, you know, and that's what brings in the multi-camera shoot. You've got that phone, you've got your action camera. So there's lots of different action cameras out. We can't get into all of them. Why did you go with GoPro, Mike? Just because we've been passing the GoPro name a lot right now. Let's just talk about why.
Yeah, so the first GoPro I bought was the Session, because when I saw it with a little cube and almost no hassle, I'm like, oh, this is going to be the perfect camera for what I want to do, because I wasn't planning on. There you go.
Little guy, so don't drop it on you.
Session's little cube.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, I'm really not going to make videos that long, so even an hour of the battery life seemed like plenty. But I found along the way that it was limiting, because if you're trying to do a ride, and our local trails are kind of, you don't stop a lot because it's they're not incredibly technical. So a lot of times it was, you know, stopping and starting to get, you know, do the video. It was kind of impacting the ride.
Right.
So I started looking for ones that had longer battery life and they're changeable battery, so I didn't have to charge it while I was going.
Makes sense.
So I ended up back with the Hero 4 because when we get into the advanced stuff, which I'm sure we'll talk about later with the gimbal, the stabilizer, there's an audio issue, and the Hero 5 family makes the audio, it picks up the extra noise, and it's just it's annoying. It's annoying to listen to. And I think we're all learning that the audio, when you're talking about making a full production video, the audio is just, if not more important than your actual video quality.
Right. So let's start getting into some of those different things before. So, okay, real quick, this isn't a GoPro commercial. I got into GoPro because of the name, and they have very good quality. So let me just leave it at this. I've been reviewing a lot of different cameras, and there are a lot of good quality action cameras out there. But this is regular guy, remember, just stepping into it, putting your foot in the water, don't know what's going on yet. A lot of us YouTubers, we know what we're looking for in the specs. We're trying these different cameras for reasons. Heck, some of them are even sent to us for review. If you don't know what you're doing, either go on Amazon and buy the cheapest one because you don't care, because you're even trying to learn about just angles, or I got to tell you, you know, the GoPro video quality is pretty darn good. It's got a good name. If you don't know what you're doing, then just get something that it's kind of tried and true at this point. I know GoPro, they're going through their own business issues, but that doesn't alter the fact that their hardware, it's pretty darn good, especially for someone who doesn't know what they're doing yet. I would say, you know, just especially like Mike said, they have a lower end one now. The optics and everything are still just as good for the most part. So, because I want to talk to some about the other stuff, we'll be going to the next stage, but that's why we're talking about GoPro. We want to make it good for you folks if you want to get started. And I don't want you to toss your money in the garbage and you don't know what you're doing.
I mean, I think we could assume too, if most people are looking at the copy version of cameras, like a Yi or an SJ, most of the newer ones that support 4K are going to give you a very good image.
I agree.
Maybe even if their 4K isn't perfect, you get a good 1080p, or I'm really liking what they call 2.7K.
Yeah.
It's in between resolution, but for me, editing and then sending that to YouTube looks really good. But I wouldn't call that a requirement. Definitely not for starting out.
I agree.
Just a good 1080p. I do have a video which actually is on my original channel because I started my first YouTube channel as Mike Lakes Trails, but I bought a $32 action camera at the warehouse store, and I was hoping it would be usable, but it's that was a little
Yeah.
too bad. Like even though it says 1080p, that's not all created equal. So
I had one of those and it just looked horrible because remember, it all comes down to a good quality optic, right? The lens has to be good as well, and just because the spec technically says you're getting at that frame rate, it still could look like crap, you know? I mean,
yeah, it's the digital sensor, right?
Yeah, exactly.
The sensor in the camera is really,
and even the
when
lens.
you get into it, it's true. Yeah, the lens gives you the perspective.
Right.
It's like GoPro is a fixed lens, but within the GoPro, you have what they call field of views. So it's the acronym is FOV on there, and that shows how wide the range is. So how much you can see. So super view is going to be the widest, you get the most into it, but that actually warps the edges of the screen. You'll see some video moving and it looks like you're going through a tunnel. So you got to be careful.
Right.
Anywhere between the medium and wide is kind of like a natural looking width.
I agree.
But yeah, so that's all software. And unfortunately, I mean, as looking for a pro stuff, I would love if an action camera could come with a removable lens, even if it was a fixed focal length, like not adjustable like a DSLR, just be able to put like 3 different ones on it. Yeah. Because I think that would be a cool thing to have, and I'm surprised nobody's
different prime lenses. I mean, that's what I use on my DSLR. Exactly. My DSLR, I use the Nifty 50, a 50 millimeter or a 24 millimeter. Those are prime lenses. Yeah, but you're right, dude. I mean, I've had very good luck with the SJ line. It's a good quality camera. I think it's the Legend 6 or something like that. But, you know, there are good cameras if you want to start looking around. But now you're the regular guy, but you're the regular guy with maybe a little disposable income. Maybe you want to have a little bit more fun. You got your phone, you've got your action camera, but your video might be a little bit shit. You want to step it up, and Mike has the answer for that as well.
This is the area where you could consider a 360 camera, because there's going to be a level between how much gear you want to carry around and kind of how much you want to spend. So when you get into better quality video, you need it to be stabilized. So I'm going to break it into 3 options. The original, what all of us people who are doing YouTube are pretty much using, is a Hero 4 Black with a gimbal on the chest mount. Now, you could also try a Hero 6, which is the most expensive, GoPro to buy new right now, but they actually have pretty decent software stabilization, and it's going to fit all the mounts.
I agree.
Some people might kind of say, oh, there's a Sony out there that makes a nice stabilization action cam, but the form factor is really weird. It's like a rectangle.
It sticks out like a javelin out of your gut. I mean, I don't want that thing on my chest. It just doesn't make sense, you know?
Exactly. I think like if you want to wear a helmet, it might be okay, but I imagine it's pretty heavy. It looks heavier, so it's out there, but it's not an option that a typical would go into. Or next would be the Rilo. Seems to be the 360 camera that is popular now. Yeah, and the ability for it. The cool thing is, so when you're looking at the sphere, you can pick a horizon point. So 360 takes a lot of information, right? And then it's up to you at the end to edit and point it in the direction that you wanted to see while you were riding. Right. So it gives you that option. You can pick a horizon and then replay the video and edit it. Yeah. The downside is for people who are getting into more advanced, the quality isn't as good as GoPro. Right. The final export. It's just, even though it's a 1080p video, it's just not as good. I agree. And you can't export the video into a normal video editor to do it. You have to do it all on the app, which means your phone's going to need a lot of storage on board because it's doing all the processing on your phone. Yeah. And a lot of people don't typically buy phones with a lot of storage built in because they don't think they need it. They're not planning to, video editors on their phone. So
so let's break those down a little bit. I mean, if we start with just you got your. Let's go and be the one Joe and work our way up. If you just want to get going, have a little bit of extra money, but not a ton, I would definitely say, and you haven't bought an action camera yet, I would definitely consider the 6, only because you've got technically the gimbal and the camera at the same time. Like I said, if you have to add up the gimbal and the camera, you've now spent more than you would if you just bought a 6. So remember, I'm assuming you guys are just getting started. You want to get going. What do you think about that? Or am I off base? Which I've been off base multiple times before.
I think that's a good option. Yeah. Actually, I've been wanting to test a 6 for a while, but I just haven't got my hands on one yet. One note I will say is people have been reporting lately, like GoPro updated the firmware.
Okay.
So the stabilization they actually made less stable in the new firmware.
Okay.
So if you go out and buy a new one, I would say maybe don't update it initially. Check what firmware's on it. And if you have the older one, try that. You can always go backwards. It is they're open, so you on the SD card you can get the older firmware file, put it on, and boot it up. And it'll flash back.
So that's a good step, right?
Yeah, it's a good step, and it's the simplest step for a lot of people. They don't want to deal with getting into a gimbal. Is you really have to pay attention to it. It's not a get up and go type thing. You've gone through all the same trials and tribulations I have. Getting the right mount to make it stable, and then have it pointing in the right direction. I've lost so many rides just because I didn't realize it was pointed in a bad direction.
So now you've got your one camera, you've got your 6, it's got some level of stability, stabilization, it's waterproof. So again, I'm trying to wrap this up in a bow for you folks so that if you want to just get going and you don't want to invest too much, you don't even know if you're even going to like this, you got your action camera, beautiful. Now, why would you then go to the gimbal, Mike, if we just made it so easy for them with the 6? What's the benefit of taking this to the next level?
So the benefit of the gimbal is going to be really smooth and full 3-axis stabilization.
Yeah.
The optical stabilization, the way it works is it takes a bigger image than you're seeing, and then it tries to center that image based on math that it determines. It tries to figure out where the horizon is and hold on to that in center, but it's not nearly as perfect as having motors and actual gyros. So the gimbal, which I have one here, actually grab the camera. So for those who aren't seeing this, gimbal has 3 arms, and the camera mounts in the front of it, and pretty much everywhere you move it, it just keeps everything nice and smooth. So this is the best option, all the people who put effort into this have found. And it's nice that actually somebody makes one that could mount in a form factor that we could use the normal GoPro chest mount.
Yep.
Right. So if you take off this guy,
it really is, folks. It's really a lot smoother than anything else out there right now. The mechanical stabilization, the gimbal based stabilization, it's the smoothest. But there's a price to pay. There's a financial price to pay. You now have to buy the camera and the gimbal, and then there's a comfort level. Mike's going to show you, but for folks, he's for our podcast people, he's mounting the gimbal to the chest mount, and there's a price to pay. You got to ride around with this thing attached to your gut, and it can be sometimes uncomfortable. There's different mounts out there. There's one, a buddy of ours, Trail Features, did a phenomenal review on the what the hell, the Stuntman chest protector. I recommend that thing. Oh yeah, that's definitely the way to go, dude.
Mine should be arriving today or tomorrow. Yeah. I decided to finally try it out. So,
but yeah.
So if you had the video, you could see me moving around like I don't know what, but the camera is staying focused on the camera, and that's what we're after.
Yeah.
Especially as you're going faster.
Yeah.
It makes everybody's. I think a lot of people who got started in it, we have to give credit to Nate Hills. He was the first guy I saw that had really good footage that was stabilized. It was like, oh wow, and he was an amazing rider. So it was. Yeah. He was showing you how cool it could look, because before. Oh, we had the helmet cam. So actually, this made me think of a point. We'll step back 1 second. If you're in between ranges, one other option would be even the Hero 5 level stabilization on a helmet cam is a decent budget option because your head keeps the image fairly stable because the bike isn't bouncing around underneath of you. And then even the light stabilization that the Hero 5 has is decent enough. It's watchable. And that could be a kind of a sub budget. That'll be cheaper than a Hero 6 setup for people. Because
that's actually a good point, folks. We'll cover this real quick as another like quote unquote pro tip. It's also all about where you mount these things. Okay, your body can soak up a lot of the hit, a lot of the vibration. So if you mount the camera to your chest firmly, okay, if it's shaking around, then that's not going to help. You can mount it to your helmet, but if the helmet's flopping, you got to put it on there tight. But if you can mount the camera to your body in a firm way, you can take a lot of the shock out of the footage and shake, because your body is, you know, your bike may have full suspension, so that's helping quite a bit. Your body, so it's also about where you mount this thing that can also help with it. Also, where you mount it makes all the interest, right, Mike? I mean, you guys have told me a couple times, Gene, you got to get your handlebars in the view when you do the chest mount, or it looks like it's this thing floating, right?
Yes, that was one of my issues with helmet mounting primarily, as my only point of view, was that you don't see anything what the bike's doing.
Yeah.
You know, you can see the trail pretty decently, but so it's really nice when you get to the point where you're running multiple cameras on yourself, having a helmet high and the chest mount is good, because you can cut back and forth between those two angles and kind of see what the trail's coming up. Then if you cut back to your chest mount, then you actually see you going over a feature. But yeah, that's so I was against the super view form for chest mount for a while, because I really didn't like the stretched out arms. If you've seen some video where your arms get really skinny and it kind of looks like an alien. But what I found is that it does a great job with the handlebar and top tube in frame and going over the features.
Gotcha.
So my tip there actually is once you get into advanced editing, which is, you know, kind of a step below where we're at talking about right now, but what you can do is I take the super view footage and zoom it in 110%.
Okay.
And then actually gives me most of the bike and not much of the arms. Good. Because, you know, they're on the outside, and gets rid of that kind of
interesting
warped effect on it.
That's a good tip. So it's a good tip.
Yeah, that's, you know, but at this point you have to be doing full editing. Right now, I think trying to deal with, most people are going to have this footage, are going to maybe have an iMovie. There's a bunch of iPad apps that actually do a good job with video editing.
You're right. Yeah,
definitely.
So
I know it's popular. Windows is a little tougher. There's a bunch of free packages, but not many of them are super easy to use, because like Windows Movie Maker was the go-to, but it doesn't support the formats we're working with.
I hated that thing anyway.
Don't try and use
another thing real quick on the helmet one is, if you are going to use the helmet, you can tilt it down a little bit to get the visor. That kind of adds a little bit of perspective. The other cool thing, though, about the helmet, folks, is you can, especially if you have a session, it's really quick to do, but you can take the camera, turn it around, and get your buddies behind you. So you could have the chest and then going forward, and then the helmet going back, and you definitely have that cool switch back and forth type of thing. So I think another big tip for you folks that are getting into this is you really need to be creative on your angles. You don't have to have crazy expensive gear. You just need to have a nice story and some creative angles. And that's one of the reasons why I like the Session so much, that little form factor cube. In fact, Mike, you've turned me on to a couple different mounts from SP Gadgets that are great. I just mount that sucker all over my bike.
Yeah.
It could be a suspension shot for 2 seconds. 3-second suspension shot, but it takes your vision off of the straight going down the trail. You see the fork go in and out, you know, up and down. You see the pedals going, boom, to another shot, then boom to a third-party shot where someone's holding your phone when you ride by. It's less about the gear, folks, and more about your creativity and how much time you want to invest. Or it's all about going outside with your phone and taking a video of your kids' first ride on their bike, which, as far as I'm concerned, is the most important video you'll take and blows all of the stuff that we're doing, YouTubes and being with your family and taking memories is where it's at, man. So it's a mix, you know?
Yeah, I'd say definitely focus on content first. Try and figure out what looks cool and how you'd want to present a certain thing, and then worry about the gear. I mean, first off, if you're just showing it if you're watching on your laptop or you know, casting it to your TV, even normal 1080p video looks great.
You're right.
You know, getting stuff up into YouTube and getting that back out to the world looking great is another little, you know, has its own challenges, which is one of the reasons I set up the website to put those type of tips up there. So when you're ready, you can go out there and check it out, and you can, you know, step up your game. But definitely, focus on the content and the whole process. It's like anything. Even if you just take pictures with your phone every day, learn about, you know, I know we're just going to touch in the settings, but there's a ton of settings what they call like white balance, exposure, ISO, shutter speed, aperture. kind of have to understand those concepts, because even with an action cam on auto, you're going to have problems. They don't handle every situation perfectly.
You're right.
So at first, you're going to leave it on auto. Don't complicate yourself, because you don't want to ruin footage by trying to set something manually to tweak something a little bit when you don't quite understand it. So for everybody starting out, leave it on auto. It does a good enough job. And, and start watching your footage. Just realize, looking at it, be like, oh, maybe it was a little too bright that day. And, and I could see the camera wasn't handling it, and how would I fix that? And that, brings up the question, which makes you look for the answer.
Good point.
So you realize, oh, how would I make video darker? And then you realize that, oh, well, the camera, an automatic, maxes out at this adjustment, and I actually need to put on a thing called an ND filter, which is basically like sunglasses for your camera. If you're, even with the GoPro out, if you're out west and it's wide open and you have the sun beating down on you, that camera can't compensate for that much light. You need to add another layer to make it good. But that's the advanced stuff that you work on. At first, get your footage, figure out how to make a video out of it, and then start looking at the advanced stuff. It's like people with photography. You don't want to go out and buy a $6,000 SLR with 3 lenses to go take, pictures of your kid's dance. Like, oh, I want the best picture. Yeah. Well, you're not getting the most out of that money. You're definitely
your best picture. Your best picture would be your camera, because you wouldn't know how to use all the settings on the other camera. So even though you may have the best camera in the world, if you don't know how to use it, it would look like garbage. It'd be like putting some red level super high end camera in my hands. That's silly. Right. I don't know. That's why I go to MTB Film School, to learn more about this. So, folks, look, we got to wrap this up. I'll tell you what. What are your thoughts? If you're watching this on YouTube, let's get some of your comments down below. What are some of the things that you've learned, your trials, your errors? What can you help other people learn about? What else would you like to learn about when it comes to these things? Because it's always good to give Mike your interests so we can do more of these videos. He has more content to put on his channel so that you can learn more about it. What do you want to know about that that Mike can share with you? Because that's what we're doing here, right? Just trying to share things and help people out.
Yeah, and I'm always looking for collaboration. I created the film school as like a school. A school doesn't have just one teacher, right? I don't want it to all be all about me. So, when Gene has a video with a SJ cam review, I want to put that on the site, so that way we can go there and have, one place to go see all the different options.
Exactly.
I'm not a professional video photographer, videographer or photographer. So there's going to be a lot I don't know. And I'd rather share other people's information and just put it somewhere to, easy to find. I'm sure you've searched for things on YouTube before and you're like, oh, I know. I had this lately. I was like, oh, I know Seth did a video where he mounted a DSLR on a gimbal to his chest and went on a trail ride. I'm like, where's that video? And it was actually really hard to find. And you would think YouTube, being based on Google, would have, a search engine that would make it pretty easy to find. But so that was my goal, just kind of keep everything organized and try and, make it easy to find. And I know we didn't talk about it today, but I got into drones, so I have some information there on what it takes to, deal with drones and filming. It's a great perspective, but there is a lot to consider. So just like we talked about advanced filmmaking, unfortunately, just throwing a drone up in the sky and getting a great shot is also something that's not that easy. And a lot of places we ride, you're not actually allowed to fly drones, which has been a big bummer, realizing, I would go here and get this great shot. Like, well, not allowed to.
That's going to have to be for another one. Yeah. We'll have to do another one of these shows, and we'll start droning it up. So, folks, I need your comments. We all need them. I want to know what your thoughts are. Did you like this video? How do you like this this style? Hope you enjoyed this bike chat. Mike, I want to thank you for getting up early in the morning with your cup of coffee, and I really like the support. I don't know, folks, if you're on the podcast, Mike's got his regular guy mountain biking t-shirt on. I appreciate that. Keep the party on the pedals. I've got mine right here. I only could afford one right now because I'm so freaking poor, so I only wear it a little bit, so I don't want to get it dirty. As always, folks, keep the party on the pedals. We truly appreciate your support. Thank you so much for either listening to this on the podcast, on Mountain Bike Radio, or watching this on the YouTube channel. Mike, you're a good friend of mine. I thank you for your time, buddy. And cool.
Thanks so much for having me.
Oh, no, this is awesome. And we'll do more of these, folks. There's so much we can share and learn together. So that's about it, my friends. You have a great day, and we'll catch you on the trails. See you later, folks.